All right. So today, the Lord has put on my heart a couple messages here. And it's getting really good. I think one of the big revelations, the Lord was talking about how He invades a city. So the way the Lord invades a city versus the way that man invades a city. And then he was talking about leaving witnesses. So here I go. I'm just going to read what I got here. Lately, you've been talking about. I better turn this down because this ain't going in pretty. You're going to keep blowing me up. Or hearing the truth. Mm-hmm. Lately, you've been talking. Or hearing the truth. Mm-hmm. Lately, you've been talking to me about the spiritually blind and deaf of this world who have hardened their hearts from seeing or hearing the truth. They do not see because they do not wish to see, God said. But for those who have humbled their hearts to the teachings and commandments of God, a door is open unto them that no man can shut. Okay. So God was saying to me earlier that um, we as believers have the opportunity to learn more by way of our imagination. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So anytime we talk about the imagination, it gets real tricky and there's blurriness there. And I think that the brain is something that modern science knows least about of all the human body. And so when we talk about imagination, then we talk about fact and fiction, and we talk about reality versus not reality, and then we talk about belief versus facts. And they Lecrae said we believe in a child's faith because kids can grasp. They say we believe in a child's faith because kids can grasp it, and salvation is granted to those who ask it. But even if I don't know systematic theology or eschatology, I know Jesus is who you ought to see. And so when I say that our willingness to believe in a God we cannot see grants us by way of our faith, the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, the ability to learn more from God, the ability to see something that others are not seeing, the ability to hear something that others are not hearing. When I say that people who have 20/20 vision and excellent hearing are still blind and can still be blind and deaf by way of their unwillingness to believe, I think you catch my drift. And God's been talking to me about the spiritually blind and deaf in the world and how they've hardened their hearts from seeing or hearing the truth, and they do not see because they do not wish to see. That wish is kind of a childish word. It's like a kid's word. Wish upon a star. They do not see because they do not wish to see. But for those who wish to see, they are, their minds, their hearts, their eyes, their ears are open up to a world of learning where they see, where others see a dead end, they see a journey into the uncharted territory. They see new land to chart. They see new land to discover. They see an entire promised land where others see hopelessness. And so God was talking to me about that. He said, some people have humbled their hearts to the teachings of God in the last days, and the door is open unto them that no man can shut. No one can actually sit up here and say, okay, stop learning. Nobody. It doesn't matter if you're locked in Guantanamo Bay, in the hole, in the deepest and darkest pit. No one can tell you to stop absorbing information. No one can stop your heart from imagining, from creating. That's why they say that the books are windows in prison. You open up a book and you can see into another world that's outside of your current setting. So there's a lot of reading that goes on in prisons to free the mind. But the mind is free no matter what prison you put it in. And this is all about actually the contents of a man. Greater is he that is within you than he that is in the world. The contents of a man um, overpowering everything that a man has been caged in. This entire universe, this entire world would be a cage to us if we did not have the ability to learn more. And that's why Ecclesiastes says that man will not find anything more outside of himself than he finds within himself. In his words in Ecclesiastes, God has set eternity in the heart of a man. So a door is open unto you that no man can shut. No matter, and he goes on to Revelations to say this as well. In Revelations, he says it. Let's see here. Revelations. He's talking to the church of Smyrna. All right. I don't want to misquote, but there's a church that he's talking to in Revelations where he says this very fact. He's like, a door is open unto you that no man can shut. He says, and to the angel in the church of Smyrna write, these things said the first and the last, which was dead and is alive. I know thy works, tribulation and poverty, but you are rich. And I know the blasphemy of those which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Do not fear any of those things which you are about to suffer. Indeed, the devil is about to throw some of you into prison, that you may be tested, and you will have tribulation in 10 days. And tribulation 10 days. Be faithful until death, and I will give thee a crown of life. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. He that overcomes will not be hurt by the second death. I believe the first death is a death to ourselves. The first death is a death that kills the idea of death in us. But the second death is a death. It's just a different. It's like the awakening, really. The second death is really a life. It's not meant to be a death, but it will be a death to those who don't awaken. And awakening has to do with enlightenment. So, at the time when others will be learning, and they'll be like, oh, snap, here's the promised land. Here's an endless amount of space for us to explore. Here's a new world to discover. At the time that some will be experiencing that part of the afterlife, others will be experiencing, oh, snap, the journey's over for me. So that's what he means. You'll be heard of the second death. But he says, to the angel in the church of Pergamos write, these things saith he that had he who has the sword with the sharp double edge. I know thy works and where you live, even where Satan's seat is, and you hold fast my name and have not denied my faith. Even in those days where Antipas, my martyr of faith, was slain among you, where Satan stays. But against you I have a few things. So because you, okay, so this is not the one. Not the one. It's actually, here it is, Philadelphia. And to the angel in the church of Philadelphia write, these things saith he who is holy, he who is true, he who has the key of David, who opens and no man shuts, and who shuts and no man opens. Okay? I know your works. See, I have set before you an open door, and no one can shut it. For you have little strength and have kept my word and have not denied my name. So, those who are following God, let me just keep reading. Indeed, I will make those of the synagogue of Satan who say they are Jews and are not, but lie. Indeed, I will make them come and worship before your feet and to know that I have loved you, because you have kept my commandments to preserve. I also will keep you from the hour of trial which shall come upon the whole world to test those who dwell on the earth. And this sermon is a lot about that. This sermon is going to get good, y'all. For those who are tuning into my message, God bless you, because this one's juicy. It's real juicy, man. And I'm only going to do a little part of it because I got to go to a meeting here. But I'll just start. I'll just leave y'all with that, with those few nuggets. We're going to pick up a little later, man. But yeah, God is doing something major in the world, and I just am going to sum up what we're going to talk about later and say that if you are leaning on the side of I haven't seen it all yet, God is still showing me. I want to leave you with this. One of the things that the Pharisees and Sadducees could have exercised at the appearance of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, when they saw God's Son, one of the things that they could have exercised to prevent themselves from making a horrible decision and from moving hastily to their own damnation, which they won't see until Jesus comes back. Then they'll realize how much they screwed up. It hasn't dawned on them yet. That's why it says there are those of you standing here who won't taste of death until you see the Son of Man coming with all power. So those one of the things they could have done better is just extended a little bit more grace to themselves. Because in all actuality, let's really put it in perspective. That's a big leap for anybody to take. You mean to tell me you hadn't seen, nobody has seen God. Nobody's had any sign of God. And God does this periodically throughout the Bible. He leaves for thousands of years and shows up out of nowhere to see who was waiting on him. So a little grace for them would have been good in light of the fact that God hadn't been seen for thousands of years. And now this man just shows up saying, hey, I'm God's son, doing miraculous things. How about the Pharisees and Sadducees could have just said, this is a big deal and a lot's happening right now that I can't explain. And maybe I just ought to not be so hard on myself and thinking that I should know everything. Maybe I ought to extend grace to myself in the area of not knowing stuff. And maybe I ought to just be patient with myself at the appearance of this Jesus. Maybe I ought to exercise patience with myself and extend some grace to myself. And the reason why it was hard for them to do that is because they weren't extending grace to others. But I think it starts with you extending grace to yourself, that you are able to extend grace to others. So, and then receiving grace from God, really having a relationship with God. So just know it's okay to not have all the answers. If they had this disposition to Jesus coming, he said it himself. He said, it's because you say that you see that you are blind. It's because you say that you have not sinned that you have sinned. If you were to just be like, I don't know, I don't have the answers, I've yet to figure it all out, I'm still learning. If they were able to just humble themselves just to that degree, it just happened so fast that they didn't give themselves a chance to warm up to the possibility of this being the Son of God. And just like that, they moved on their pride. They moved on their ego. They moved on their ignorance. They got upset with what was actually meant to relieve them. They got frustrated and they damned themselves with what was meant to justify and vindicate them. And all that happened because their heart was hard towards themselves, others, and God. And they just needed to have some grace with themselves. Just a little grace. Like, I don't know. I mean, hey, he's doing some pretty cool miracles. I hope it's him. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll go read some more scriptures. I'll go, study a little bit. Maybe I'll ask him some questions. I don't have to just jump to this conclusion about him. And he's moving pretty fast. I don't know. Let me learn. Let me be gracious with myself. Let me be patient in between the time of the action upon me and my reaction to it. Let me pause and just self-reflect. So I'm gonna leave you guys with that, because this message is a great deal about learning. And there are people who are blind and deaf at the end of the world who do not see because they do not wish to see. And they don't wish to see because because of pride. And so their pride has closed up their imagination. They have been solidified in an identity that isn't them. And their pride won't allow them to see anything more than what they know themselves to be. So as eternity is in the heart of a man, been set in the heart of a man, according to Ecclesiastes, if a man's heart is hardened and unable to see eternity, then he is locked in an identity that is limited forever. I'm going to leave on that note, and I'm going to welcome you back to the next message coming soon, okay? God bless you guys. This is a short part 1 of this message. I don't even know what the title is going to be, but it's going to get really good from here. You're going to want to come back and see the next part. God bless. I'll see you in a bit.